Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our Facebook Live. My name is Megan Gilbert, and I have with me today Caroline Brennan. Caroline is the Director of Communications for our Emergency Department. Hi, Caroline. It's so good to see you.
Hi, Megan. It's great to see you.
So, Caroline is in Moldova, and as we all know, and that we have been watching over the last week or two, there have been tens of thousands of Ukrainian refugees who have crossed the border into Moldova. And Caroline, you have been there since Wednesday of last week, and we thought this would be a good chance to let everyone know what you've been seeing, what people are telling you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Caroline, you went to the border. I believe that was on Friday. So you
Mhm.
see people coming across into Moldova. Can you just describe what that looks like?
Sure. And first of all, thanks so much for having me. This is one of the first times I'm articulating what I saw, so bear with me if I get a little emotional. But on Friday, we were at the border with Ukraine. We're in a border town called Otachi, and it is. I know so many of you've seen news reports and footage of the crisis, and I had too. Before coming, and what was just really just so striking was just how um, emotional it is for so many people that you were meeting, that you were engaging with. It's very crowded at the border. You have people arriving, mostly women with children, because a lot of men of a certain age are not allowed to leave the country. So you have a lot of women, children, and then elderly family members. And they're arriving in this border cities or town, I would say larger, kind of congested towns, and going straight into any place that seems to be able to offer anything. That can be a blanket, food, coffee, tea, information to know just where you are and what your options are, what services are available to you. I went right into a bus station. It was very small, almost like the size of maybe a local pharmacy, but filled with benches. And normally a bus might pass through every few hours, but this was packed with people and just children on their laps and bags everywhere, plastic bags, suitcases that children are dragging, behind them, and just tears everywhere, just uh, eyes bloodshot, exhausted, um, swollen from saying goodbye to their husband or father at the border, and just this sense of weariness, just exhaustion, and also confusion, or just trying to figure out, where do I go from here? Who can I trust? I don't have my partner at my side. I'm around a lot of strangers. I need transportation. Who can I trust for either information or support or shelter? So there are a lot of questions, um, and a lot of uncertainty. In that bus station I just mentioned, I met this man. He was in his 60s, and he was charging his phone. Charging your phone is such a critical need. Being able to connect with your family and just let them know we made it. For many, crossing the border is an hours or days long episode, either in car or on foot. So to be able to communicate where you are, that you're okay, to see how they are. So there are these hot stations set up for people to do that. And I met this man who really wanted to talk. And he said, here I am. I left a beautiful home in Kharkiv. And he's like, and guess what? This is the second time I've had to flee my home. He said, I was a refugee from Azerbaijan to Ukraine 20 years ago, as a Ukrainian citizen now, started a life there. And now he's on foot, fleeing again, with his grandchildren. Actually, they were in their car. And he said, can I show you where we're living? And I said, of course. And he took us to this dirt parking lot just adjacent to the border. And inside, the car with these cute kids looking out the window, seeing their grandfather waving and his wife, and just packed with all of their belongings. And he said, we've been sleeping here 3 nights. And of course, his grandchildren are asking, when are we going home? Why are we sleeping in a car? How do I go to the bathroom outside? all of these questions that are so hard to answer and so painful, and just the uncertainty. He said, here, I'm a refugee again, and where do I go? I don't know. And so providing not only that relief and support, hot food, blankets, information at the border, it's really that assistance to help people navigate this swirl of uncertainty, these decisions they never imagined having to make, that could potentially change the trajectory of their lives. Do you stay close to home when you want to go back home, or do you go further thinking it's going to be safer, but you just really want to go back at some point? Each decision has a ripple effect, and you're making it under extreme exhaustion, grief, loss, and duress. We all know when we are going through a difficult time, it's even harder to make these difficult decisions, and that is what people are going through. So we are very much there with Caritas, and Caritas Moldova, Caritas Poland, Caritas Ukraine inside for people displaced inside the country, and Caritas Romania, providing a range of services to provide that physical relief, but emotional as well.
Caroline, as you're talking about all of that, I think we all understand the emotion involved. I know for me, seeing those like little children like pulling that suitcase, and you can only just imagine them saying, I can do this myself, I can do that, but then also that confusion of like, what is happening? And I think that has struck so many of us. But you talked just now about our partners, and this is Caritas Poland and Caritas Romania, and I've noticed that there are a lot of volunteers, but we also have a lot of staff. Can you talk a little bit about what they have been doing and why they decided to help in these certain situations?
Well, I am just blown away by two things that you've just raised there. One is the volunteers in the Moldovan community. Here we are, it's the poorest country in Europe, and you have so many civilians out at those border and transit sites. They're the ones making the food at home, bringing it to these sites, making the tea, taking time away from their jobs, putting expensive gas in their car to transport families to perhaps the Romanian border. A lot of people are looking for transportation to get not only to a safe shelter, but maybe to get to a European border of the EU. And so you have people going out of their way, taking money out of their pockets and taking this time to help. And I met with one of the volunteers in Otachi. His name was Valerie, and he was just describing why he wanted to help. He said, he was watching from home, which was only maybe 30 miles away. And he said, I felt like I was watching like a movie, like it felt so distant, even though he could hear everything. And he said, and I just had to come. I had to be up close and in person and understand what is happening. And he said, it just makes such a difference to be that close, because you feel that essence of humanity. And then on the flip side, you have Caritas, not on the flip side, but on the professional social service side, has its footprint across not only this country, but the region. And what an incredible source of support. Caritas is one of the only, we are one of the only international agencies here. And they have had a presence in these communities for decades, providing social services, and that they can now adapt and modify their spaces to be safe places of refuge, spaces for children to be able to sleep and have activities to take their mind off what's happening, and counseling for family members, and just again, a shower, a hot meal, all of those things. People might stay a few hours, they might stay a few nights, but they're able to modify and adapt these centers. And the Caritas presence across this region is unique. It's incomparable. We're all helping each other. Caritas Poland will be sharing supplies with Caritas Ukraine, Caritas Moldova, doing the same thing for our family, and Caritas Ukraine. So it's really an incredible presence and incredible role to play at this particular time.
And I think that's kind of one of the things that strikes me as well, because you talked about this, people coming across the border, and they're terrified, they're scared, and that fear of not knowing what's next, and the fear of being just alone, like how I don't speak the language, or I'm sure they're similar, but how do I, where do I go? What do I do? And to have Caritas there, to have volunteers who will say, here's, here, share my food with you. It must offer some level of comfort, that because I think what people would imagine, like, what do you, when you have like massive numbers of people, like, how can you manage them so quickly? And it is because Caritas Moldova, Caritas Poland, Caritas Romania, they're there and they have all these things in place so that they can support people. And then we're here to support our partners as well because of just the magnitude, of what's happening here. But we have, I know I've seen some pictures that we have, and can you describe the Caritas Center there? Like, it seems, what struck me about it is that it does seem, almost like as much of a home as you can make, where it's beds and in a room. Can you describe how that setup is?
Yes, and just to your what mentioning earlier, this fear of, I'm all alone. At the same time, you're surrounded, for so many people, surrounded by people you don't know, and that need for privacy at a time like this is so essential. So in these spaces, what you feel and what you see are families having a moment to just take a minute to rest, to grieve, to have that personal space that you need to collect yourself, to figure out what is next, to have tough conversations with your children or your family members, and to have the space and the privacy, especially if you're a woman traveling on your own with your children. Privacy is also a safety measure. So being able to have that space is so important. You just see this just sense of rest and relief for that period of time. And the centers are really nice spaces. I mean, the contrast is very quiet when you go inside versus being outside. You have bunk beds in the rooms, or communal spaces where people are fed hot meals. It's so nice not to have to open a plastic wrapper to eat. And just that the dignity of eating with utensils and plates, and being able to feel clean and just recoup. And so that is what those spaces immediately offer. And then, of course, there's the surround sound of care, of counselors being available to you, of social workers having information available to you. Transportation, Caritas provides transportation as well. So a lot of this type of support, sort of holistic, comprehensive, physical needs, the emotional needs, just we look at the whole person and what we need in this moment to get from this day to the next day, with some peace of mind. I always think of our work as just, the helping people just alleviate just one of the many burdens they are carrying. If we can just lift one or more of those for this night, they might have more strength to go the next day.
Absolutely. And just, to be able to offer them something in that moment. And Caroline, I know right now we are not even 2 weeks into
No.
this crisis, and as you know from experience, and we all know from history, that this is likely to continue, and it's not like they can just go back anytime soon. So while we're dealing with that immediate need right now, how do we prepare, and what are we doing now to, like, see for the next few weeks, few months, for that time to come? What are some of the things that we do?
Well, we have to be, flexible to whatever is happening where we are. And so we are ramping up support to look at possibly we anticipate increased shelter needs here in Moldova, and of course elsewhere. And so our colleagues who work in shelter and safe and dignified accommodations in emergency contexts, they are here looking at the spaces that might be available in the cities and the towns where we can perhaps modify spaces to be safe living environments. We may be able to work with community members who want to rent their space, and maybe we provide some support to those owners by upgrading some of the aspects of their living units. But we're exploring all options. We're increasing our numbers of Caritas centers. So we have 3 Caritas Moldova centers. We plan to establish 5 more. And then we're also working with the government centers that are right there on the border as well, to offer key supplies. So from bedding to cooking supplies to also supplies for safe child spaces and activities and things. So we are growing, but we have to be agile and flexible to what is most relevant now. We will be providing cash assistance to families, and we can take a lot of learnings from emergencies, in other contexts as well. And in Europe, that was such a highly transit response in 2015 and the years after, when so many refugees had arrived from Syria and Afghanistan and elsewhere on the shores of Greece, and many were moving northward into further west into the European Union. And we realized some things were very effective, and one of those was providing cash assistance in form of a cash card, so that they can use it as they move. And we can also top it up if we anticipate their assistance and needs will be great after we see them for this period of time. And so we are going to be providing cash assistance, which is so critical for people who have so few resources.
Yes, so certainly that support as we go on, and as we always say, is that we're there in the beginning, but we want to be there for as long as people need us. So that's the kind of work that we're preparing to do right now. So Caroline, you have witnessed these kinds of situations before. I know you were in Iraq when they had a displacement crisis years ago, and other situations with the Syrian refugee crisis, and so. As you are there today and thinking about what is it that's coming to your mind? What is it that you're thinking about as you're seeing people, unfortunately, go through this again?
It's heartbreaking and feels so preventable. And I just feel like we can't let this happen. We can't see it with our own eyes and let this continue without responding in whatever way fits our lifestyle and whatever we are able to do. But one thing that is reinforced from one context to the next is just the value of family, of connection, of safety, of being with the people you love most in this world and being able to protect them, and feeling like you have people looking out for you. And I feel like we need to be in that space of looking out for Ukrainian families who are dealing with so much right now. And nothing is more important than family. And so I hope that we can do that.
It's hard to talk about, isn't it? Because that's what it is for all of us, because we can all imagine what it would be like if we didn't have our family with us. So we will be there and we will support them. And I will say from me, I'm getting emails, I'm getting phone calls. Everyone wants to know how they can help. So as challenging and as difficult and as heartbreaking as all of this is, it has humbled me to see how willing people are saying, I'll open my home. I will, people can come stay with me, and I will do that. So I'm grateful for everyone to doing that. I'm grateful for you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Because we all can't be there, and for you to tell us what's happening and to share the stories of others who don't necessarily have the platform that we do. And so we will continue to do that. So Caroline, thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll check back in with you soon.
Thank you so much, Megan, and thank you for everyone for watching. We really do feel the support here. It means so much. So I thank you so much, and please keep the people of Ukraine and all those serving them in your thoughts and prayers.
Yes, and if you would like to help, you will see a link in the post here on Facebook of how you can support the people of Ukraine. And please follow us on social media if you want updates for all of the work that we are doing, and we will definitely keep you up to date. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.